Good morning from St. Petersburg. All of our knobs and meters and everything seem to be working. I got to keep an eye on that stuff, or I'm going to do this whole hour without any audio. Well, we're having nice weather here in St. Petersburg. Got the air conditioner turned off, enjoying the fresh salt air. So let's see what's going on. It's Tuesday, October 21st. It's 10:03 a.m. So let's check out the weather. See what the weather's doing. As you can see, that cameraman's having a good old time looking inside. I don't know what that building is there, but at first I just thought it was maybe they parked boats in there or something, but it says something on top there. I can't tell what it is. So let's have a look at the weather. Let's get these screens straightened up here. Like that. And we got Seattle, Washington, 56 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 56 degrees. Hayward, California, 52 degrees. Tokyo, Japan, it's 70 degrees. San Antonio, Texas, it's 62 degrees. Toledo, Ohio, it's 49 degrees. Los Angeles, California, it's 47 degrees. Denver, Colorado, 48 degrees. St. Petersburg, Florida, 75 degrees. Corpus Christi, Texas, 71 degrees. San Francisco, California, 58 degrees. Tampa, Florida, 71 degrees. Charlotte, North Carolina, 49 degrees. New York, New York, 56 degrees. Santa Fe, New Mexico, 49 degrees. Amsterdam, Netherlands, 57 degrees. Santa Rosa, California, it's 46 degrees. Gaza, Egypt, of course that's Gaza, Israel, 79 degrees. Tel Aviv, 79 degrees. And Jerusalem, 79 degrees. Hilo, Hawaii, 69 degrees. Rotterdam, Netherlands, 54 degrees. In Hong Kong, China, 84 degrees. Ferguson, Missouri, 49 degrees. Yeah, that temperature's starting to drop. Pretty soon we'll be in the single digits for a lot of these places. Not in St. Petersburg, Florida. Probably not in Corpus Christi, Texas. And probably not in Hilo, Hawaii. I don't know. I hear it gets a little cold in Japan. And I think it gets a little cold in the Netherlands. I don't think it's going to get too cold in Israel. So that's the weather from around the world. Let's check out and see who's live at this time. We'll reload the page here. Right now that's saying just 3 people are live doing their business. Let's reload the page, see what's going on here. Page is reloading. Okay, District of Columbia, Syria, the Ukraine, world, and world. Let's see here. Well, we're supposed to be live in there. And yep, it's supposed to be showing us, but I don't see us. Let me reload again and see what happened. Like I said, you never know when you're going to be a memory on some of these sites. But it's their site. They can do whatever they want. And okay, we're not showing up in Citizen Stream, so we may have been removed. Well, shit happens. Okay, so let's go over and take a look at what's going on in the chats. Election day in 13 days, and we added a new clock because when I was talking to Jokes yesterday, he said you need a clock. So now we've got a clock. So it's 10 o'clock a.m. This clock doesn't seem like it works very well because it's actually 10:07. So that clock may get replaced. Maybe it's not the kind of clock that stays working every time you open the page. That's the time you open the page and it freezes. It doesn't look like it keeps working. So maybe we'll just remove it and put something else on that keeps working, that gives accurate time. Well, you can see the one on the bottom. It says 14 hours, 52 minutes, and 19 seconds. That's how much time you have before election day. So early voting started yesterday. I seen President Obama was out in Illinois voting and joking with the people. And he's very good at communicating with the people. I think that's why he's such a great president. And I think that's why the Republicans suck. Is because when you have money like that all of your life, you kind of limit yourself with the kind of people that you're around. You don't get to the working class, the middle class. I'm not saying that you have to hit the homeless shelters and things like that, although I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But the working class and the middle class, you got to visit some of the places to understand what the people need. So anyway, let's see. On this, I'm live, and I am in our password protected room, and the site chat is a little slow. Let's see if there's anything in there that I could trigger a conversation. And they're still trying to stop people from voting in a lot of states, and maybe we'll have a little talk about that. There's 6 people in Global Revolution, and again we're in the password protected area, and if you want to come into the area, I'm sure there's somebody there that knows the screen name and password that you'll need to get in. If not, all you have to do is come to our site chat or any one of our channels and ask if you want to come in here. Gone has 8 people this morning, and I don't see any chats that would trigger a conversation. There's 4 viewers and dissenters. Chalupa Batman, AK Captain Obvious is in there, and Full of It is a name changer, so you never know who Full of It is, and I was in there a little bit ago. And then we move up to OPN, and they have 8 viewers. They've got Straits in there, Feck is in there, Rap Brown is in there. Now this Rap Brown is quite a character, and I don't know how he smuggled into OPN. He may have came in there through our site. And one of the good things about our site is that you can find all these chats. One of the bad things about it is that anybody, some people are pretty weird, and they can come and bounce around and disrupt all of the chats without leaving the page. So there's good things and bad things about being able to access these chats like this. So like I said, this Rap Brown, he starts out pretty cool. And then he can end up a terror. But it's up to the chats to deal with these people. They know how to ban. They know where the ban button is and stuff like that. They know what their limits are, and that's all the news is. And these are our Twitters, of course. Got our Twitters up there. You can see that one to the far left is that's Israel, and yeah, they're just talking about, war stuff, because this is actually, it's the first one I've ever seen, or, it's a military Twitter. Let me see if I can zoom in on that and give you a little look at this. Because what it is, it's a, I was watching them while they were fighting in Gaza, and when they were doing this, when the fighting was going on in Gaza, everybody was against Israel. That ain't gonna work too well. Let's see if I can fix that a little bit better here. Kind of try this and go like this, and let's see if we can redo this. This may not work. Try this a little bit here, just experiment. Still not working right. But anyway, this Twitter here, I mean, if it was something that we really had to pay attention to, I'd fix all this so that you could see it real clear. But this Twitter here is the IDF Twitter, and it's the Israel Defense. I don't know what the F stands for, but it's the military, and they pretty much, when they were fighting in Gaza, they were telling us Israel's side of it, Israel's side of the story, because most of the web was full of people supporting Gaza. They just wanted the bombing to stop. They thought the bombing, was basically immoral. But it's kind of like with the Democrats and the Republicans and the people in these chats. What they do is they'll complain about President Obama all the time. And the problem is that a lot of things that can be fixed in this country has to be fixed by Congress first. And then from Congress, it'll go to the president. The president does have executive orders. He can, he can do some things. A lot of times there's a time limit on it. I think there's a time limit on what he did for the Dreamers, and then it runs out. And then other times, I guess it can be permanent. I don't know that much about executive orders. I'm not sure exactly how it works. But one of the things that I'm sure of is that when people go to taking sides in politics, it always has to do with President Obama. You will never hear, did you see what the Republicans are doing now? You don't see that. Almost never will you see that. You will never see what the Republicans are doing wrong. If the government gets shut down and Congress shut it down, it's the president's fault. If Ebola isn't fixed quick enough, it's the president's fault. If we don't get boots on the ground in Iraq and in Syria, it's the president's fault. If we aren't involved in the Ukraine and Russia gets Ukraine, it's the president's fault. Everything is the president's fault. You'll never, hardly ever see anybody saying, look what the Republicans are doing. For some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I do. Every chance I get, I say this is what the Republicans are doing. Debt-free currency does it. He says, look what the Republicans are doing. Crusader 1954 does it. But they're hardcore Democrats. But on the other side, the Obama haters, that's all they'll do is say what Obama is doing. They will completely disregard the facts. Completely. Let me fix this. Let's get us back to St. Petersburg. They'll, and that's all they want to talk about is what the president did. And the thing is that a lot of the stuff that they are blaming on the president doesn't have any control over. It has to go through Congress. And in their blindness and hate, they won't tell or talk about what the real problem is. And the real problem is the Republicans. The real problem is the Republicans. We got some, people that will come in and defend the Republicans. They'll defend the Republicans. But I was roaming around in some of our chats yesterday that I have on the site, and I was getting in there and seeing if people were kind of just getting my own feel on what's going on in the country and in the world, and asking people if they were going to vote. I was in Banks versus You, and they're usually live most of the time. We have them in our Ustream page, and I was asking them, is anybody going to vote? And one chatter said, no, I'm not going to vote. And because I was visiting that chat, I wasn't going to start an argument with this person, because I pretty much heard every argument there is why people won't vote. And they're basically real simple. Either they say that both sides are the same or that their vote doesn't matter. But that's it. When you ask them, What is the government doing to you, specifically to you, that has you in such an uproar that you won't vote? Especially if you're a female, especially if you're black, especially if you're Hispanic or some kind of minority, especially if you're poor white, especially if you're gay. You should be voting. I mean, people fought and died, and not that many years ago. Approximately 50. To a lot of people, yeah, that's a long time ago. But to some people, it's not. They fought and they died, and we're still fighting today. We're still fighting today for the right to vote. If voting wasn't so important, they wouldn't be trying to cheat us out of it. So this person said that they weren't going to vote. And she said, both sides, they're crooks on both sides. And I said, well, you should pick your crook then. Decide which crook you want. Because somewhere in that crookedness, they're going to do something for you. That's all you have to ask yourself. Is there something this crook can do for me as an American citizen? Is there something that they could do? Is there a law they can help get passed? Because when you say both sides are crooked, you say all of America is corrupt. That includes you. You're corrupt. Everything you have was ill-gotten. If both sides of our political party are corrupt, you're corrupt. Because you benefit from our government one way or another, and you cannot find a way to deny the fact that some way, one way or another, our government is helping you. From the clean water you drink to the roads you drive on, even the internet you play on. The food you buy at the grocery store, the gas you put in your car, the car you drive, the clothes you wear. Even when you go to the barber shop. There's codes set up by the government for all of these people. Rules and regulations, one way or another, for all of these people to operate to keep you safe. That's what these crooks, both of them crooks, do. And so you have to decide which one of the crooks you want. Okay? The Republicans, and this is the deal that our government has with the people. No taxation without representation. So the rich pay taxes, they have a right to be represented, but still you have to vote in your representatives, and that's why they fight so hard to get their representatives in there. That's why they pay all the money that they pay, and we organize people. So they got money, we got people. Let's see who comes out ahead. We, the Democrats, the Libertarians, the Green Party, any of them that you can think of. The little guy, the middle class, the poor. People without a big fat bank account. Them people have to fight the people with money. But the people with money have a right to be represented in our government. That's what it says. No taxation without representation. And the rich know this. Because why? Because they have tons of lawyers to tell them what their rights are, what they're supposed to have, what legally belongs to them. But even though we have a right to be represented, them representatives still have to be voted in. Our representatives aren't appointed. You can say, no, they're just bought and paid for. They're just bought and paid for. They still have to represent. So both sides are crooked. Then the whole country is crooked, and that means you're crooked too. Because you drive on them little crooked roads that them crooked people got built. City, state, federal, they're all government. They're all run by one party or the other. Democrats or Republicans. There is nothing in the middle. Democrats or Republicans. And if both sides are crooked, you're crooked too. You pay money into the system whether you like it or not. If you're so convinced that they're crooked, stop paying taxes. Find a way to stop paying taxes. Find a way not to own anything. Because if you own property, you're going to pay property taxes. You can't just say you're not going to pay them. If you work, you're going to pay income taxes. You're just not going to be able to say you're not going to pay them. If you buy anything, you're going to pay a user tax. You just can't escape these crooks. So you have to decide which one of these crooks you want in the government. Do you want a crook that gets in there and tells you straight up that he's for the rich and the wealthy? Extremely wealthy? Corporations? Is that the crook you want running things? Or do you want the crook in there that's going to say, you know what? We need more. We need a higher wage. We need a living wage. And we need health care. And we need equal rights. And we need to be able to vote. And, we need equal pay in the workplace for men and women. The gay people need to be able to decide who they're going to marry. We need to be able to feed the poor, house the poor. Which crook? Pick one. But just to say that both sides are crooked so you're not going to vote it's ignorant. That's the only thing I can think of. It's just completely ignorant that people would say that. And then you got the other people. Oh, well, my vote don't matter. My vote don't mean nothing. Well, it might not mean nothing to you because you don't use it. You don't participate. But it means something because people are trying to buy it every day, all day long, 365 days out of the year. People are trying to buy your vote. No, they don't give you the money, which is really slick because they're buying something from you, but they're not actually paying you. You get a bunch of ads on TV and tell you how messed up our government is or how messed up a candidate is, and they try to sway you to vote for them. And that's what they mean when they say they're trying to buy your vote. They actually do these little studies and say, okay, well, this candidate put in, say, $1 million, just for simple math, put in $1 million and he got 100,000 votes. Okay, he paid $10 a vote. That's the way they figure it. Because they got to have a poll. They got to do some math. So that's the way they figure it. That this particular candidate spent $10 per person to get elected. And the way that they did it is through advertising. Because they think, somebody somewhere thinks, not only are they crooked, but that they can influence us by these ads. That's what they think. And that's what a lot of people believe. So they say, we've got to get the money out of the government. Well, anytime you start taking money out of someplace, Walmart, McDonald's, Burger King, anytime you start taking money out, you also start taking jobs away. The first thing that happens when you start reducing the money, you start reducing the jobs. So there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And the best way is to vote. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the same people who contribute $1 million, for example, to a campaign, and then the campaign takes that $1 million and goes to like NBC and pays NBC or Fox or whatever for some advertising. Let's just say Rupert Murdoch gave gave a candidate $1 million. And, on the side in the back room with the cigar smoke, he says, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you got to spend that $1 million over at Fox. Well, he owns Fox. So he gave the money to himself. That's what he did. He gave the money to himself. But that doesn't make him crooked. It just makes him smart. He knows what the rules are. He knows how to get that money back in his pocket. And that's what they're in the process of doing now, is seeing exactly what the effect of giving everybody approximately a $3 an hour raise all over the country is going to cost. Because you can give somebody a $3 a raise, the guy that flips the hamburgers, the people that take your orders, the gal that cleans your sheets when you go to a hotel, or washes the windows, or whatever these minimum people do for this minimum wage. Whenever you raise their pay, then the guy above them, he's going to want to raise. And that's what the people who own these businesses know. In other words, your manager is making $10 an hour, and you've got him convinced that that's all you can afford. And maybe that is all you can afford. Maybe business ain't all that good. And $3 an hour is going to really affect your business. Some of these little businesses it would affect. But maybe they've got to figure out a way to subsidize these little businesses. And that's what we do. We figure out a way to subsidize them. And the way that we subsidize them is we give them tax breaks. So the government doesn't collect as much money from this little business, but the little business didn't lose any money. They didn't lose any profits because the government worked with them and balanced that out. But all of this has to happen if you have good representation in the government, and you've got to vote. I'd rather you didn't vote for a Republican, but if you've got a reason and your mind is set you want to vote for a Republican, then vote for a Republican. You obviously feel that the Republicans are doing something to you, and I really would like to talk to you, because if you don't have millions and millions of dollars, I would like to hear what it is that you would want the Republicans to run things. Well, I did ask. T is a chatter over in Dissenters. And I did ask T, well, what exactly, because he's, kind of, he's not, I wouldn't call him a hardcore Republican, but in that channel, he's probably the only ones that defend the Republicans as little as he does, as little as he can. It's pretty hard to defend the Republicans. And I asked him, what do they do for you? I mean, they're not going to, if you don't have millions and millions of dollars, if you don't own a corporation, what do you think the Republicans are going to do for you? He says, well, they're slowing the Democrats down. And he's right. Everybody who voted the Republicans in, who aren't rich, voted them in to stop the Democrats from raising taxes. Because the Republicans have them convinced that it's their taxes that the Democrats want to raise. It isn't the Democrats that want to raise their taxes. It's the Republicans that want to raise their taxes so that the rich don't have to pay any more taxes. There was a time that the rich were paying like 90% in income tax, and still had enough money to end up doing what they're doing right now. From the time that they had a 90% income tax rate until now, that high income tax rate never hurt them. What they slowly did over time is shifted the burden to the people with the help of their representatives, the Republican representatives. So while you think that the Republicans are slowing the Democrats down, they're getting a foothold in our government. And when they get that foothold, they get to decide who pays taxes, what kind of taxes we're going to pay. is gas tax going to go up? Our user tax going to go up? And then you get them into local government, state government, and is your property taxes going to go up like Rick Scott did here in Florida? We moved here and our tax bill went up $700. And he claimed that, that was partially so that we could pay for Medicaid. That's what he said. Because here in Florida, property owners have to contribute to Medicaid, along with people who work. But do the rich people, is there a little box that they have to figure out how much of their money goes to Medicaid? I don't think so. And I've never filled out one of their tax forms, but I could just guess really hard that they don't have a Medicaid portion of that money is going to Medicaid. They don't pay into Social Security. They don't need it. So they don't pay into it. And some of them that worked and then got filthy rich anyway can still collect Social Security and Medicare. Cheney didn't pay for that heart. Taxpayers, tax dollars paid for that heart. And that's the way America works. That's the deal we made. We can't say, oh, well, he's rich now, he should fix his own heart. No, that ain't the way it works. Because if they can do that to him, they can do that to us. And that's one of the things that I always did think about rich people. When something happened to rich people, I always said to myself, if they can do that to them, I can only imagine what they can do to us. Because the rich people can defend themselves a lot better than middle class and poor people. Should the government get crazy, and they feel the government is crazy, well, the government is just trying to get back what it's already had. And they still did well. And it wouldn't be a problem. Nobody would be complaining about the rich people if they were investing like the middle class and the poor do. But after you've got so much money, it just sits in a bank somewhere. I was listening to Donald Trump one day, and he says, I've got so much money that I have to pay for them to keep it. I don't get interest on my money. Can you imagine that? And here all us little middle classers and our little poor people are thinking, shit, I got to get some money in the bank, and I got to get some interest on that money, and I got to save it and let my money grow. And then here's Donald Trump laughing at us, saying, I got so much damn money, I got to pay the bank to keep it. That's how much money I got. Well, he's not alone. He's not alone. There's people with way more money than he's got. There's people with way more money than he's got. And they have to pay for somebody to take care of their money. They got so much money they can't even have money. Can you imagine that? Having so much money, you can't even have money. You just get to have numbers. That's all you get. You can carry numbers around. They're not even heavy. But they get represented in the government. Democrats and Republicans, they get represented in the government. And the Republicans represent the rich. And the Democrats represent the middle class and the poor. So when T says that the Republicans are slowing the Democrats down, and all the Democrats want to do is help people like T, he's mad because there's some regulations that he don't like. I don't know what regulations they would be, but he just says that there's too many regulations. We haven't got down to what kind of regulations, but if there's regulations on him, the chances that the regulations were aimed at him, I would say, are slim. They don't just have a regulation for one person. In other words, whatever that regulation is, it's to deter bigger companies or a bunch of people like him from doing whatever it is that he's being regulated. Zoning. Zoning is a way of regulating business. That's to keep 5 liquor stores from being on the same block, for example. That's what it's for. That's what a lot of zoning is for. It's to regulate business so that you can't set up shop right next door to, say, an old ma and pa has been sitting there selling handkerchiefs. And then you come in and you're this big corporation and you can just move next door and sell your handkerchiefs for 50 cents cheaper or 50% cheaper than what they're selling theirs for, and put them out of business. That's what zoning is partially for. It's regulation. It's part of regulating business. Now, some people would say, hey, you know what? That ain't right. We should be able to do what we want to do. If I want to open up my business next to this business, I should be able to do it. I should be able to compete with this guy. Well, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to just come and put somebody out of business. Because you can. Because you can afford to lose money for 5 or 10 years before you'll see any profit, because you've got so much money. You can afford to do that. Well, the little guy that's sitting there, they can't afford to lose money for a month before they start thinking about going under. And you're going to come in and undercut all of their prices? That has to be regulated. That's all part of zoning. And that's what the Democrats do. They try to make sure that, we don't cut each other's throats just because we can. It's not survival of the fittest. So they regulate, and they're zoning. So whatever regulations and zonings, because I don't think in T's mind at all he's going to benefit from any tax breaks that the Republicans are fighting to give him. So when they slow the Democrats down, the Democrats are trying to get the rich to pay more taxes. President Obama said it all through when he was running, during his campaign. They were talking about how much money these people make and how much they say that they pay in taxes. And then he would show us. They would show us. Warren Buffett did the thing. He compared himself to his secretary. He said, my secretary pays more taxes than I do. Well, you know what he meant, racial in proportion. But, they don't say it that way. They just say that she pays more in taxes, even though he could have 1 million secretaries. Literally 1 million secretaries Warren Buffett could have, and pay him the same amount that he's paying that secretary with the kind of money that he has. He gave a lot of his money away, though, Warren Buffett. And he didn't give it to his kids. It's kind of odd, but that's the way he did it. For some reason, he did it that way. But his kids will never suffer. It's not like they're going to end up in the alley somewhere in New York digging out of trash cans. That'll never happen to any Buffett that is anywhere close to Warren, unless they messed up in the family somehow. I seen where he had a granddaughter, a great-granddaughter or something, who was kind of thrown out of the family. She kind of did an interview on one of those 60-minute deals or something like that. She was no longer a Buffett. Somehow she managed to get herself kicked out of the family, or she just quit. Sometimes they just quit the family. They can't handle being rich. And a lot of us who aren't rich can't imagine somebody not being able to handle being rich. I think there's a lot of difference between being rich all your life, being born into it, and then just like winning the lottery. Because you still have all your hopes and your dreams, everything you fought for, and every time you say, only if I had the money to do it, I would do it. Only if I had the money, I would do this. So it's a little bit different, I would think, if you are born into a situation where that's never a problem. So what do you dream about? What do you think about? Because money is not a problem. And in America, from the middle class down, we think about a way to make money. More money, more money, more money, more money. We want to make more money. That's what we want to do. But the Democrats and the Republicans are different. And the Republicans are there to represent the rich. That's what they're there. That's their whole job. Just represent the rich. And the Democrats are there to represent the middle class and the poor. That's their whole job. And if you want to stop the Democrats from trying to get you better stuff, and even in your local governments trying to do better stuff for you, because that's what you're slowing down when you vote for a Republican. That's what a Republican wants to slow down. And that's what you vote for. You decided that you're not happy with your government services, so you're going to vote in a Republican to take that away from you. Which part of that doesn't sound right? You're not happy with your services, so you're going to vote for a Republican to make sure that you have less. I'd say most people pay about 33% income tax or less, somewhere, 1/3 of their check. But that's not just in one area. You've got that goes into your Social Security, that goes into your Medicaid, that goes into your Medicare. It goes into a lot of other things. It's just not 33% by itself. It's all broken up, and people who's got a paycheck know that. They look at it and they see all the categories that finally add up to 33%. The Republicans don't do anything about lowering that tax. When they say that the Democrats want to raise taxes, they stop right there. Now, if they said the Democrats want to raise taxes on the rich, do you think people like T would be out there saying, no, that's bullshit. I don't want my rich to pay any more taxes. I'm tired of them trying to attack my rich people. My rich people do enough. My rich people pay enough. And I'm tired of you attacking my rich people. I'm just sick of you attacking my corporations. Just sick of it. So I'm going to vote all you Democrats the hell out of there. And I'm going to make sure that you leave my rich people alone. That's what you say when you vote for a Republican. Or you don't vote at all. Because Republicans vote. The problem Republicans are having, there isn't enough of them. Their biggest fear is that the Democrats will start coming out and voting. So they mess with our voting system. They try to make it so that the Democrats can't vote. They know all Republicans have IDs. They know Republicans are working too. If you're a Republican, you're probably working. If you're a Republican, you probably never struggled. Because as soon as you do start struggling, they shift over to Democrats. I mean, so fast it makes their own self dizzy. Like when a hurricane hits, or when the XL pipeline was going to go over their property. How fast they suddenly, I get it now. I get it now. I understand what the Democrats mean. I get it. But that's the problem. They always get it just a little too late. And they don't get it until they have a problem that they want the Democrats to help them solve. Because their own people, the Republicans, are trying to take their stuff away from them. So suddenly they see the light and, okay, where's them Democrats now when you need them? Well, guess what? The Democrats show up. And the Democrats don't tell them, God damn, man, all these years you've been voting Republican and now you call for us for help. No, the Democrats don't say that. The Democrats show up and they try to have solutions and they try to solve the problem. Because the Republicans are strong enough to know that you would need somebody like the Democrats to help you do things like stop the XL pipeline, like cleaning up when a tornado hits, or a hurricane hits, or a giant earthquake hits. The Republicans aren't going to help you clean it up. Look at Chris Christie, a Republican from New Jersey. When they had a problem, he didn't call on the Republicans because they didn't want to help. He had a hell of a time getting all them 60 or 80 billion dollars, whatever it was, over to New Jersey. Who was helping him? The Democrats. How did he get voted in? The Democrats. And what is our thanks? Democrats aren't worth a shit. That's our thanks for helping the Chris Christies of the world. So we have to be careful when we vote. We have to make sure that that Democrat isn't a Republican in disguise, for one thing. We've got to make sure that he really is a Democrat, and that he's going to follow the way Democrats think. It's not that D in front of or behind your name that is so important as the way you think. Are you getting into government so that you can get the government to help the people? And if you're getting the government to help the people, which people are you getting the government to help? Because only the government can fight people like the Koch brothers. Because the Koch brothers know that there's greedy little people who are poor too. That if you give them some money, they'll do anything. They'll do anything. They'll do any job. They'll put on any kind of uniform if you give them enough money. And sometimes you don't have to give them that much. T was saying that where he lives, $9 is pretty darn good. Why do we need a $10 minimum wage? $9 you can do pretty good. Well, maybe he can do pretty good. I don't know if he's got a family. I don't know if he's got a mortgage. I don't know if he's got car payments. I don't know how high his electric bill is or gas bill. I don't know if he even pays for trash pickup to keep the city clean and safe from disease. Trash pickup seems like a convenient thing to have until you realize what would happen to a city if it was full of garbage, like New York was at one time when they quit picking up the trash. That's how disease can get started in a lot of places. That's how people get sick. Rotting trash. The government does that. The government picks up that trash. The government puts gas in the trucks that come to pick up the trash. And the government pays the guy to drive the truck. And that's what people want to slow down. The Republicans don't put that kind of stuff in place. As a matter of fact, where a lot of Republicans live, they have private trash haulers because they can pay for it. There's private trash companies. In Denver, our trash collection was free. But if you go out to Adams County, you paid so much a month for trash collection, and it usually comes in your water bill. But if you live in these gated communities and you have millions of dollars, no, the city doesn't pick up your trash. Private company does. You're in a homeowners association, your own little government. And maybe that's why they want to control our government, because they think they've ran their little government so well that they can run ours too. The difference is they're not going to let us into their gated community. They're going to keep us out, supporting their gated community. And that's why it's important that the Republicans don't continue to control our government. Like I said, it's a rule. No taxation without representation. And the Republicans have a right to be represented. But they have to fight to get their representatives in there. And obviously, once they get them in there, the rest of us pay dearly. Yeah, we pay dearly because they'll send our sons and daughters off to war without blinking an eye because it ain't theirs. They know damn good and well that you ain't going to come in and take little Johnny. You know, they're not. That's not going to happen. They're going to take Pablo and Joaquin. Yeah, that's who they're going to take. Jamal, maybe. They'll take Jamals. They'll take some Jamals. And they'll take that poor white kid, old DJ. They'll take him too. But not them poor rich kids. Oh no, they got to go to college. Them are the next doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs. Can't be sending them to war. Are you crazy? They're Republicans. They only start wars. They don't fight them. Geez, they're in control of the government. That's what they do. And that's how they do it. And people like T and others want to slow the Democrats down? You want to slow them down? You want to stop them from doing stuff? Get some Republicans in there. Republicans will help you in a minute. They'll help you stop them pesky Democrats from getting that minimum wage, from making sure everybody votes. Yeah, those Republicans, they'll stop the gay people from getting married and make sure that we're all Christians while they're at it. Because if they get too strong, that's even possible. Can you imagine that? A law that we have to go to church. Who's going to stop them? You kick the Democrats to the curb. The only people that would stop them, you've kicked them to the curb. And maybe one day we'll all be Christians. Well, I'm Catholic. But I don't want to have to go to church on Sunday. I don't want to have to. But anything is possible. It depends on who's governing. So you really should think about it when you say both sides are crooked. Because a few in both parties have been caught committing crimes. Yeah, it happens. It happens. But I mean, you make it look like all the citizens don't do that. There are no citizens out there committing crimes. Just the politicians do it. The only ones that are crooks are the politicians. No citizens are doing that. Oh, the citizens are above committing murder and robbing and stealing and raping. Yeah, no, the citizens don't do that. Just the politicians. They're the only crooks. They're the only crooks. So you're not going to vote because both sides are crooked. There's some kind of word for people that think like that they're better than everybody else, that they don't do anything wrong. But they sure do have their hand out. Boy, they'll put their hand out in a minute when something's wrong. And they'll take money from that crooked government. They'll take aid from that crooked government. And like I said, those Republicans that were in the way of the XL pipeline are no longer Republicans. And they made it clear. We were in error, and we've seen the error of our ways, and we are going to change. Thank you, Jesus. That's about what they did. That's how serious they became. Next thing, they were playing with the Indians. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Cheering for the homeless and gay rights. All that shit that the Democrats do, all that nonsense that the Democrats do. Those Republicans suddenly said, all right, my brothers, thank you very much. I get it. Now, let's stop this damn oil from going through my ranch. Can we get that done? And the Democrats are saying, well, we don't know. Them Republicans got a pretty good hold on your government. And you voted them in there. Now, we ain't going to punish you for that. But, you know, it's an uphill fight. It's an uphill fight. But we're here, and we're going to help you. And that's what we say when somebody gets hit by a tornado or a hurricane or an earthquake. Do you ever see the Republicans helping? No. Right away, well, let the Democrats do it. Them are all Democrats down there anyway. Let the Democrats do it. And the Democrats saying, we would if you get the hell out of our way. You know, if you would stop funding XL Oil. If you'd stop funding Exxon Mobil, Shell, if you'd stop funding some of these corporations and get the hell out of our way, we will help the people. Instead of giving subsidies to rich farmers, if you'd get the hell out of our way, we'd get some of these people some food stamps and some help, and then we try to get them into a house. And then we try to figure out how to get them a decent wage so that they can help this economy and this society grow. So everybody lives in a decent house. And they can feel like Americans. And be what we used to be, and be what we are supposed to be. Because it's really getting hard for people to believe we're the greatest country on earth. When somebody shows you our education, we're like 26th in math. I mean, and there's only 27 people on that list, and we're 26. Yeah, it's getting pretty hard to think that we are the greatest nation on earth. But then I never woke up and said, I live in the greatest country in the world. That's just propaganda that, that people do. They try to make it look like that. But I don't wake up saying, oh my God, I live in the greatest country in the world. As soon as I turn out this computer and I go do something else, I will forget about what I'm talking about right now and go about what I'm living in the brick and mortar world. And that's what most of us do. And then I get an idea for tomorrow's show, what I'm going to rant about, and I think about it. And if I'm close enough to a pen and some paper, I'll write it down, and you'll hear my thoughts on it tomorrow. But just to say both sides are a crook. Both sides are crooked. The government is crooked, and I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to participate in this crookedness. Is ignorant. It's just ignorant. And, we're running out of time. 13 more days. I've already voted. Early voting started yesterday. So, like I said, I would hate to see people voting for the Republicans, but you got to do what you got to do. If you figure the Republicans are your guys, then vote for them. If you feel the Democrats are just in the way,
it's 11 o'clock.
If you feel that the Democrats are just in the way, just in your way, making your life a living hell, then vote for a Republican. And if you feel both of them are corrupt, both sides are corrupt, then don't vote at all. Don't vote at all. And then, when you pop your head out of the sand every now and again, and the people who do vote, the people who do try to make a change, they'll still be standing there trying to help you and your dumb ass. I didn't vote, and you're all proud of it. I didn't participate, and you're all proud of it. And the country keeps getting better and better and better. And you can't stand it that the country's getting better. You can't even stand it that you were so wrong. You can't even stand yourself. And I take a little pleasure in that. You should have voted. You should have helped when you had the chance to help. We shouldn't have had to fight this hard. A few of us shouldn't have to fight this hard. Because there's more people that have an interest in our government, and by interest I mean what our government can do for us, than there are rich people. Rich people don't need the government. But they sure will use it. And they sure will control it and will pay for it. And if they have a chance to put our taxes up to 90%, they will. And if it looks like you got to die, you got to die. Yeah, the Republicans are cold. And Republicans aren't just the rich. There's a lot of middle-class Republicans. They couldn't get voted in if they had to depend on just the rich. They need the help of the middle class to get voted in. But the middle class has to ask itself, what is the Republican Party doing for them? And how is the Democrat Party hurting them? If you think that your 33% is the fault of the Democrats, you need to rethink that one. Your 33% is there because the Republicans won't pay their fair share. And their money's just sitting in a bank. Well, it's their money. They earned it, people will say. And they're right. They're right. They earned it. But then again, they need to stay off our roads. They need not to ask for military help when their oil wells are under attack because they built oil wells or companies in foreign countries. They need not to do that. But then again, it's their right because no taxation without representation. I'm Artstarzz. That's just my opinion. Have a good day.